is actually for everyone, whether you're a 5-year-old or you're a 70-year-old. Why do people think of only the Himalayas when they think trekking?
Hi, I'm Mauna Nanaya. Welcome to a brand new podcast series by Decathlon called Mountain Days. Mountain Days is all about inspire and move. It is about bringing people outdoors. It is about bringing people to embrace nature and get going. I'm currently a software engineer, motorcyclist, and content creator. But mountains is where my heart lies. From the first trek to Skandagiri on the outskirts of Bangalore in my sandals, to be able to do treks like Stoke Kangri and Pin Parvati Pass, it's been a long journey. So in our first episode, we're going to be asking some big questions and some common questions like, is hiking for me? If I'm a solo woman, can I get into this space? If I'm not a beginner and I've already done a couple of treks, how do I get to the next advanced level? So to talk about that today with us, we have Sandhya Chandrasekharaya, who is the co-founder and COO of Indiahikes. She has been instrumental in exploring and documenting some beautiful treks in India like Kashmir, Great Lakes and Buran Ghati. Hi Sandhya ma'am, it's nice to have you here.
Thank you, Mana, for having me here.
So if I'm right, Indiahikes has been in this space since 2008, which was almost 15 years ago. Right now, we have a lot of information that we can see. We don't have to step out of our city or states to know how Europe looks like or how the mountains look like. But back in 2008, how did you think that this is what I want to do? How did you think about a concept of Indiahikes with very little information in hand?
I got introduced to trekking back in my school because when I was in my 5th standard, 6th standard, all the excursions we had would be to the nearby hills surrounding our city, which was Mysore. And that's where my love for trekking actually started. And a few years later, I think we did a family trip to the Himalayas, not trekking, just a trip. But then, as a young trekker, I had earmarked these places in the Himalayas, like Valley of Flowers, where I wanted to trek once I grew up.
Right.
And that's how it progressed. So when I started working and started earning, I went and did these simple treks in the Himalayas on my own. And during this course, I started researching a lot more about people who did serious treks in the Himalayas through blogs, because blog engines were the only
Right.
source of information
Right.
back then. And I think through one of those searches for doing the Rupkund trek is where I met Arjun Majumdar online. And then we got talking, and then we discussed the thought of Indiahikes. And we also did the Rupkund trek together. And post doing that trek together is when I had this firm belief that I think I must embark on this journey, which is very meaningful, where we bring out trekking in our country because there's so much to do, so little information about it. And this journey looked very meaningful. And I quit my full-time software work and then decided that, okay, let us do Indiahikes and bring out trekking information to all and make it accessible to everybody in our country.
So the software engineers should take notes on how to switch. So how was it for you as a woman trekker out there? Were you the only one? Were there other people you were inspired by? How was it back then?
Actually, back then there were very few women trekking, and I spoke to you about my Rupkund trek. I was the only lady in that group.
Wow.
There were 18 other men who were trekking. And we have come a long way actually from that single lady trekker in a group to right now. If you look at treks, I think almost 30-40% of the people who go on treks are women.
Right.
So we've really come a long way, and I'm very happy about it. If you talk about my personal journey as a woman, I think even at Indiahikes, I used to be the only lady for a very long time.
Sure.
But very consciously, we have had a lot of women working with us, very talented women. And if you look at it now, we have a lot of women in leadership roles, leading various departments of Indiahikes, making trekking happen, taking trekking forward. So I think women in general have come a long way when it comes to trekking in our country.
So if someone asks you, I'm a solo woman and I want to go on a trek, what would you say to somebody like that?
If you're a solo woman and you want to go on a trek, the first thing is mountains are pretty safe. People in the mountains are also very well behaved towards visitors in general and women in particular. So you don't have to get extra worried. It is not like a big city, an unknown city where you have to make your way all alone.
Right.
So if you are confident of navigating through big cities to reach mountain bases, then the mountains are a safe place. This has been my general experience because even while at work, I have done a lot of solo trekking along with local guides, local villagers, and they have been a safety net. One piece of advice I would give is never venture out all alone as a single person, because in the mountains you do need the safety of another person with you, because you never know when there can be a slip or a slide, when you have to encounter a landslide, or you need to take shelter for the night. So having another person is a huge safety net, and I think when you're in the mountains you don't have to be worried about your safety as a woman, as long as you have a decent confidence in the other person who's with you, whoever that person is, maybe a local villager.
So, what you're saying is that it's not really gender based. So, then coming to the big question, is hiking and trekking for everybody?
Absolutely, Mana. We believe that everybody must trek, and trekking and hiking is for everyone. Whether you are a 5-year-old child or you're a 75-year-old man or woman, everybody must hike or trek, and the benefits are immense to everyone. And each age group or each section of the society has something very useful to take back when they just go out and hike or trek. Now, when you talk about hiking or trekking, people very quickly assume that you're talking about those big treks. You have to go to the Himalayas, you have to climb snow-clad mountains.
Ultimate goal.
Yeah, the ultimate goal. But hiking and trekking is not just that. You can hike and trek anywhere. You actually start around your cities where you live. You just go out about 50, 25 or 50 kilometers away, find a small hillock and spend time outdoors. Take your little child and go climbing just outside your city and expose them to these small hikes. These hikes can just be about a couple of hours long, maybe even half an hour up, half an hour down, and a half an hour break. So you have your hike in less than 2 hours. And that can be a wonderful way to spend a Sunday afternoon in a city instead of going around in the city or going to a mall and shopping or eating and stuff like
In
that.
fact, I think in Bangalore itself, we have 40 plus treks just within an hour reach.
Absolutely. Anywhere you drive outside a little bit, and at least every direction of Bangalore, you have 5 to 10 treks which you can go and do. Many of these do come under the forest department's control, but there are many which are open. So just be mindful which are open for public, which are not, and then go and go for a Sunday afternoon hike.
That sounds very, very long weekend plan, short weekend plan, any weekend plan. You don't have to plan your vacation. You can just get out and just start hiking.
Yes.
So mentally, I'm already hiking. I'm always in the mountains. I'm watching a snow peak, Kedarkanta, Rupkund view. But how do I know that I can actually do this? How do I assess that from theory that I want to do this to reality of how to do this? Where do I start?
Trekking or hiking is actually a very simple sport. And all you need are two simple things. One is your own 2 feet, and the bigger one is a wanting or an attitude to want to go out. So just step outdoors, identify any place outside your own city. It might be a hillock, it may be a lakeside, it may be a riverbed, it may even be a seaside, wherever you're residing. Most of our country is actually blessed with small hillocks all over, whether you are in Western India, Southern India, Northern India, around these big cities. We have many of these natural places accessible. So all you have to do is have a decent pair of shoes and a small day pack. I think these two are essentials. Carry some water, carry some food, and go head out for a couple of hours. That is where you start. And when you go out, you get an understanding about yourself, what you're capable of, how far you can go with your current level of fitness. And even if you have lofty dreams of going to the Himalayas, you start with this basic assessment of yourself, and then you know that, okay, I need to move from point A to point B in terms of physical preparation. I need to prepare myself. I need to get my legs strong, my lungs strong before I do something big. And you give yourself that preparatory time afterwards and then embark on a big journey. But start with these small journeys first.
I mean, earlier I think we used to think beaches to take a dip in the water, but there are so many popular beach treks also
Right.
right now
Yeah.
that just takes half a day for us to go enjoy the seaside, enjoy the mountain, and both at the same on the same afternoon.
Yes.
So, talking about getting this information on what should I pack, where should I, what kind of shoes I should wear, a little bit that I would like to add here is that my first trek was in 2013. That was Sandakfu. I booked the trek and then panicked because I had no idea what I was going to go for. So I started searching, and the first article that I read was Indiahikes, which actually spoke about the beautiful rhododendrons you'll see and the trumpet shaped flowers. What actually caught my attention there was not just the fact that here are the 5 things you should carry and this is the altitude of the trek. It was more visual, and I sort of understood okay, this is what I would be expecting. So, do you think a bit of research, self research, and self understanding of some of these concepts would help?
Absolutely, especially if you're going for a Himalayan trek, which I would strongly recommend or encourage people to look at it as an adventure sport. And a sport has its own demands, it has its own preparation, it has its own rules. So when you embark on a journey of an adventure sport, you need to spend the time researching, learning, preparing,
Right.
getting your gear in order. All this is true when you go on those big journeys. Never step out without them. But again, coming back to the small journeys, you don't have to be kind of bogged down by these preparatory measures or gears that you need. It's very simple. Just get out and enjoy nature around you. Be in the outdoors, spend time outdoors, and slowly you will start moving towards your bigger goals.
At this point, I think we all agree that hiking and trekking is for everyone. Let's deep dive into it and list 5 beginner-friendly treks across India.
There are many treks, Mana. Around Bangalore, if you take, you have many of these day hikes like Skandagiri. You have the Nandi Hills through its stairs,
Yes.
which most people don't
Don't know.
know of. You have Harihara Betta, which is very close to the new Isha Center that's coming up.
Okay. So you
So
can
it's
make
off the
Anisha
yeah.
Chikmana for a whole thing and also a hike.
Yeah, it's off the airport road, so very easy access. These are around Bangalore. If I move to Mumbai Pune region, then there are many, many forts that you can just take a train from either of these cities and go for a hike during the day and come back. I don't need to name them. You just do a Google search, you'll get 20 of them.
Right.
If you are in the north near Dehradun, Mussoorie, you have the Benok Tibba, a beautiful leafy trail just outside Mussoorie. You have the Deoban Trek, which is a weekend trek just outside Chakrata. You have the Hatu Peak near Shimla, and you have the Patalsu Peak of Manali. All these treks that I'm talking about, you can do it on your own. You don't need an organization to take you because they are very close to these popular places where you get stay.
Right.
And you have civilization very close by, yet you have these beautiful treks. Now, if you're looking at multi-day treks, then multi-day treks in the south are a little hard because the forest department doesn't give permits very easily for multi-day camping inside the forest. This is where the Himalayas score, and you have the Dayara Bugyals, you have the Fulara Ridge, you have the Ali Bedni Bugyal, many treks, you have the Ranthan Karak in Kumaon. All these are lesser known treks that you can go as a beginner and be away from the crowds even in trekking.
I think except for Nandi Hills and Skandagiri that you mentioned, I have no idea about the rest of the names. These are definitely some DIY treks I think that should be in the list, which also geographically avoids crowding. We know very famous treks. We know Rupkund, we know Kedarkanta, we know Triund, we know Prashar Lake, which is so done. And I think this way we also sustainably are able to venture into areas which are not very known.
Absolutely, Mana. It is imperative that people spread out and trek in new places because trekking is all about that. Is actually going into the outdoors, into the wilderness, away from civilization. And if we end up crowding the same old treks, then you are taking the city to the hills. There's no difference, and that's why we actively want people to explore these lesser known trails rather than going on the known ones.
So, talking about the lesser known trails, I think most people also opt for the famous ones because there are a lot of organizations, trek organizers, and it's more popular. It also has been commercialized. So, there is for sure a place you'll get a Maggie, you'll get bread omelette, you're going to have dhabas. So, it's easier to do. But what about when trekking in different age groups? So I think back in 2017, when I did Pin Parvati Pass, there was a generation of three heads in the trek: the father, the grandfather, and the son. They were of literally the different ranges of, one was a teenager, one's a senior citizen, and the other is like a software engineer. So, what do you think age has an effect on all of this? Do you think age has an effect, in fact?
As we already discussed, trekking is actually for everyone. Whether you're a 5-year-old or you're a 70-year-old, trekking has its own set of benefits to offer when you trek. As a child, when you trek, you get introduced to the outdoors. You connect to nature very, very soon in life, and thereby you learn to love nature and protect nature and start living sustainably in tune with nature. So that's a very big benefit that you when you start kids trekking, when you start kids early on
Earlier
trekking
on.
in
And
life.
also in a lot of schools and colleges, we don't have mountaineering club. Very few of, probably focused schools and colleges have this. If you see, parents also put kids into swimming and cricket and volleyball and basketball, which is a lot more popular than actually putting them into something called a mountaineering club. Do you think it will be helpful to start at a young age, that this also becomes part of an extra activity in the curriculum?
Absolutely, Mana. That's something we've always believed in, and that's why we even want toddlers to go on treks. They may be small, what trails in the
Small trails.
forest where you're collecting leaves or looking at insects, but all these have immense benefits. And talking about school kids, it has immense. Learning from the outdoors has benefits as good as what you get learning from the classrooms. Children develop resilience, confidence, learn to work in teams, and all your issues that parents face with children about not being independent, not able to do their own activities, all these automatically get corrected with a small stint in the mountains. So, having a hiking club in your school is something we strongly advise and recommend, and I wish more schools take up to this. If I go back to my story, my school introduced me to trekking.
Exactly. I remember you
Yeah,
mentioning
and
that. Right.
it had immense benefits for me for almost life, I would say. And that's why I'm a very big proponent of children taking to trekking very young, and schools can play a very big role.
Yeah.
If your school doesn't play a role, then parents can play a role.
Right.
You don't have to be dependent on the school alone. Parents can plan activities on short treks and hikes instead of waiting for a big hike to happen or a big trek to happen or the school to take your children out.
And in this sections or categories of ages, if you notice, the extreme end of the boundaries are actually less in number. The more in number are IT employees, are people in their mid age, 30, 40. But even in that, if you notice, most of them, married or unmarried, men are out there. Married or unmarried, women are still less. I think when we are in our 20s and we are exploring, we go out more. But once you get married, you have a kid, somehow something changes, and there's also an apprehension that I cannot do this with a kid is one. But I personally, my body has now changed, so I can't do this as another one. So, what do you have to say about that? Is that actually true? Does your body really change so much so that you can't do it?
Coming back to your numbers, I can tell you from our statistics that most of our trekkers are in the age group 25 to 35, and I think women in 25 to 30. So once past the age of 30, women tend to believe that it's time to start a family and trekking needs to take a break. But I want to emphasize that trekking need not take a break just because you're a woman and plan to start a family. Trekking can be done even when you're pregnant because it's very good for you. Even when you're expecting, if you go out and do those easy hikes, especially in your second trimester, it does wonders for your body and for the growing baby. Very similarly, if you can start trekking after you've had the child as fast as about 4 to 6 months, because when you go out, I'm talking about these small hikes around your place. When you go out, you realize what your body is now, and you can start working on it from there. You can get back to your original self very soon when you go outdoors and start knowing about yourself. So treks are a very good way to know physically where you stand, and from there how to take it forward. So my sincere advice would be to do not take a break in trekking just because you've had a child. Spend that time, take your weekends out, go on small hikes, and work on your fitness
family
thereafter.
activity.
Yes, it can be a very good family activity, even for infants who are 6 months and above.
And I think for people who do not know this, Decathlon very specifically has a backpack in which you can carry your baby. I'm not kidding about this. Check this out. Until now, everything has been dreamy and beautiful. I mean, we placed ourselves in the peak of snow peaks and, looking at the ranges. But talking about some ground realities, there are a lot of things that's not in our control. There are a lot of things that we can do and a lot of things we should not do. So, what is your suggestion on what can we do before we go into a hike or a trek? And here I'm very specifically talking about the mountains and the Himalayan ranges, because that's where a lot of reality strikes. Because in small treks, I think you can easily get back home and you have the endurance to think it's just a half day trek. So, if anything goes wrong, I'm able to handle it. But when you go into something which is longer, which is higher altitude, which is 10 days, 15 days sort of a trek, that's when reality hits. So, what do you say we can do beforehand? What might happen that we can't control? But even if some unpleasant situations happen, how should we mentally be prepared for it?
Even if you're going on a 4-day basic Himalayan trek, the treks that are meant for beginners, you need to follow a few set of preparatory activities. The first and foremost is fitness, obviously. You need to have at least a 2-month fitness schedule where you work your way towards being fit for a Himalayan trek.
Okay, I thought it was 1 week. So good to know it's a 2-month schedule and not 1 week.
Yes. During these 2 months, you go out and exercise. You run, mostly it is running, or you do stair climbing. You do your other strength building exercises at least for half an hour every day. It's imperative that you do this workout before you head out to a Himalayan trek. Do not attempt a Himalayan trek if you have not prepared this much, because this sport requires that much of respect, if I have to call it.
Yes.
So you need to do that before you head to the Himalayas. Now, the second most important thing that you need to have when you go on a Himalayan trek is your trekking gear. And even when I talk about gear, there are 3 or 4 very important main things.
Okay.
The first and foremost are your shoes.
Right.
Because when you go to your mountains, you need shoes with ankle support, something like your MH500 for easy moderate treks, or an MT100 for your very high altitude treks. So these 2 shoes really take care of your safety when you're trekking.
Right.
Shoes like these. You also need a very good backpack if you carry your own backpack. We highly recommend you to carry your own backpack, because that's the right spirit of trekking.
Right.
You need, again, Decathlon has some great backpacks, the MT series of backpacks. A 50-liter backpack with the very good back support is what you need. And after that come your trek pole and your headlamp and stuff like that. So if you have these 4 or 5 gear right with you, then your trek actually becomes a lot easier and friendlier for you to trek.
Because you personally, also your body is very comfortable and it's happy. So you will also be happy on a trail.
And these gears are actually scientifically researched and developed,
right.
so as to make your trek more comfortable. So do not discount the gear aspect at all.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of people who carry things which is available at home for probably because of budget reasons or various other reasons. But actually having a gear which is scientifically proven to help you is very, very important.
Yeah.
That is something that even I have realized. I did my first trek in sandals, then the second trek, Sandaku, that I mentioned, in normal running shoes. That was a bad idea. And then I actually moved to the old 4 class 100 or 500 or something that I still have, which has been very helpful actually.
Right. And the third aspect for a beginner, absolute beginner who's new to trekking, is to do some trekking around their cities, because a little bit of experience in the outdoors, camping in the outdoors, goes a long way in actually setting expectations for your big hike in the Himalayas.
Do you suggest carrying the same weight and backpack that you would probably be carrying?
That would be great, but not really required. I feel the overall experience of doing a trek, experiencing elements of nature, camping outside, sleeping in a sleeping bag, all these go a long way in
trying to zip it in
yeah,
layers.
go a long way in actually helping you acclimatize to the mountains. And so that you don't say trekking is not for me if you encounter a heavy downpour. Forget the big natural calamities. Even people get put off by heavy rains or your slight wetness and stuff like that that you encounter, which are a part of the entire trekking experience. So if you have to kind of foolproof yourself or your children when they go there, do these small hikes over here, and that these three things play a big role in ensuring that your trek is successful.
Are there any apps or a chart that you suggest that people follow? Is that something that's readily available?
We do recommend a fitness schedule on our website. If you go to Indiahikes and follow the fitness schedule recommended, we have separate fitness schedules for easy treks, easy, moderate, and difficult treks. We ask people to track their runs on, and we have a certain target given. If you meet those targets, I think you're ready for your Himalayan trek. So just this 2 months of preparation should be good enough to go on one.
And I think after COVID, everybody now has the oximeter and a thermometer with them, which earlier we used to go to the guides and say, please can you check my oxygen now, how much it is. I think now we're equipped to also on a regular basis after a run probably check and see how our body is doing. So that's, I think technology also has been very helpful here. So far, we talked about beginner treks and how to start, where to start if you're a newbie. But you also mentioned that there are different types of treks, moderate, advanced, and beginner. So who should actually opt for which one? Because moderate seems like a gray area where I don't know where I would be. So what would you say? Who should go for? Beginners, I think, pretty clear. But moderate and advanced, what is the categories like and what is the threshold?
So we categorize treks in about 4 or 5 categories. The easy, moderate ones, the moderate ones, moderate difficult, and difficult. So if you are a beginner, choose either the easy, moderate, or moderate. Both are fine. These treks are the 4-5 hour duration multi-day treks, usually last about 4 days, and they are a very good introduction to Himalayan trekking. You get to feel the altitude, you get to feel how it is to feel the snow experience camping, everything. Now, if you have done 1 or 2 of these, what's very important is back home is to work on your fitness. When you want to choose a trek that's of higher difficulty, your fitness also has to go up, because a moderate difficult or a difficult trek is significantly more difficult than an easy or an easy moderate trek.
I think that's very important, because I will always be thinking I've done 3 treks, so I should be able to do moderate. And then what if there's a break and what if there is no physical activity that has happened? Then those 3 treks become irrelevant with respect to fitness, right? It is only with respect to experience.
Yes, your experience matters, but fitness matters even more, is what I would say, if you are choosing a trek of the next difficulty. So you have, in moderate difficult treks, you have your treks like Rupin Pass, Buran Ghati, the Kashmir Great Lakes. All these are moderate difficult treks where you have to walk about 12 to 15 kilometers a day, which wasn't the case in the easy, moderate ones. And coming to the next higher level of difficulty, the Everest Base Camp, or even the Bali Pass, or maybe Goichala. So these treks take even higher level of fitness, where the terrain is really hard, the altitude is really high. So sustaining yourself and what would you say, the exit options, the facilities en route, they're all very difficult. So if you want to go to the next level of trekking, work on your fitness and ensure you've done at least a trek or 2 of the lower difficulty grade. If you directly jump into a very difficult trek after doing a moderate trek, you're surely going to have a shock and you may not be prepared for it.
So what if somebody is a very active person, like a sports person per se, they are generally active on a daily basis. Should they first trek go to something very high?
You can choose a moderate difficult trek at max, not a difficult trek. I wouldn't recommend a difficult trek because you wouldn't know how to tackle the various things that come on the trek. So if you're really fit and confident, a moderate difficult trek is the max you can go to. But general recommendation is choose an easy or an easy moderate trek.
Okay. So far, it has been absolutely insightful. We have tackled some very basic questions and some questions that most people think about, are apprehensive about, but never ask. And I think some things that you just don't find in a Google search. But now we have something special. We have gathered a set of questions from our viewers and we will be reading them out and I would like you to answer them in a rapid fire fashion. Kunal asks, what are some rookie mistakes that people need to avoid while hiking and trekking?
I think packing for if situations, that just increases the weight of your backpack and makes you carry unnecessary load, which is really not required. Pack right and also carry a right backpack. I cannot stress enough on
I
that.
think 3 types of perfume is probably not required.
Yes.
Have you made any of these mistakes?
I have made a major blunder in one of my treks.
Okay.
And that was not taking enough rest before going for a high altitude trek. I just planned my journey non-stop from Bangalore to Himachal Pradesh and landed up at a very high altitude base and started trekking the very next day morning. And in the very next day, I developed altitude sickness and I had to come back down from my trek. So this is a very big mistake trekkers do, and you must not do that.
I think following up with a question here, when you say that you came back down, Rishabh asks, while trekking, how much should I push myself and when do I stop? How did you know you have to stop?
You need to listen to your body. You need to observe your body. If you have been trekking at a certain pace, if your pace falls down below your natural pace, then you know something is wrong. Your body is giving you signals saying, I'm not able to be myself. So if you are yourself, this is your natural pace, and you suffer from a little bit of difficulty, it's fine. But if you have fallen behind your own self, you were much better on a particular day, the next day you are way behind, then it's a very clear signal that do not push yourself. If you are suffering from fever or vomiting or any indigestion which is going beyond a little out of your control, or your body feels very weak, listen to your body, come down.
I think listening to your body and listening to the mountains is very important when you're in the mountains. Next question. Okay, I think rapid fire is not rapid anymore, but Sham asks, what are some budget-friendly treks?
All these short treks where you can do right out of big cities, they are budget friendly. You can do a Nag Tibba from Mussoorie, you can do a Benok Tibba from Mussoorie, very little transport involved. You can do the trek on your own. All those treks out of Shimla, Manali and Mussoorie, you can do in a very tight budget. On a similar note, treks like Valley of Flowers, where there are dhabas on the way, where you have places to stay, places to give you food, they can be done in a very budget friendly way. You don't need an organization like us to take you, you can go on your own. One high altitude trek which can be budget friendly is also Gomukh Tapovan.
Okay.
Where you can stay in the government guest houses and carry some food that you can make with the stuff. So these are easy DIYs.
Okay, I made a mental note of the high altitude budget friendly.
Yes, and once you have done these, you can then graduate into a fully DIY, which is a lot more budget friendly than any of our regular treks. You can venture into Kedarkanta, Daira Bugyal, all on a budget. So you can make your trek budget friendly. You just have to be prepared for it and do your research for it.
Next question. So Geeta asks, what would be a good season to pick as a beginner?
As a beginner, to experience trekking in its full glory, I would pick a season where the crowd is actually less, and also the elements of nature are more predictable and under control.
Right, very important.
Yeah, so if you were to ask me, I would recommend autumn any day, the months of October, November, and initial parts of December, because the skies are absolutely clear.
I thought you would say summer.
Yeah, summer is there, but autumn is beautiful. It has absolutely no crowd. People do not venture out in autumn. I don't understand why, because the sceneries are at the best. The mountain views are at their best. The skies are clear. You don't have this fear of rainfall, snowfall, and your experience is going to be great. It's going to be a little cold, but with the right jackets, you will be able to manage that. But autumn is an out and out wonderful time to trek. My next favorite season would be spring. Summer is very good for very moderate, difficult, high altitude treks. They are open during that time. But again, autumn has an alternative with less crowd and beautiful skies and very little chance of rain.
Oh, nice. I mean, I honestly always thought there is no rain, so you just venture in summer and you don't really think beyond that.
Summer gets rain and snow. It's a myth to think that summer means only heat. No, in the mountains, summer also gets a fair share of rain and snowfall also.
Okay, so I've gotten a myth of mine also broken today. Now, this question is from my side. So, when I heard about you that you were going to be the guest, and I read about you, I read that you were one of the explorers of Kashmir Great Lakes. Although it's been my screensaver for a long time and I've somehow not gotten a chance to explore it, I want to know from your side that with a lot of information, we find it a little difficult to go out and do something. But this is something where you documented and found the path. How was that experience for you?
When I stepped my first foot on the meadows of Sonmarg, from where we start our trek, Shitkadi to be particular, I had no clue what to expect. I hadn't seen a single photograph of this most photogenic photograph trek that we have today. Absolutely. So every step that I took was a wonder, if I have to say the least. And every step on the trek, I kept thinking that if there's a trek people have to do, they have to do this. But right now, I would say this for the whole of Kashmir, not just for Kashmir Great Lakes, because Kashmir Great Lakes kind of personifies the beauty of Kashmir, and there are many, many other treks in Kashmir which bring out beauty like this. So there's no need to just crowd Kashmir Great Lakes. But back then, when I did that, the beauty of Kashmir was new to me, and this trek totally brought it out. So I always say that all the other treks are like watching a movie on your TV, but when it's Kashmir, you're watching it on a multiplex screen.
Oh my God. And I think we all have to thank you for bringing this beauty to us and for for making it available for us to explore. Thank you so much for that. So thank you everybody for sending in all your questions. This was a fun segment for sure. Now the final question of all. What sustains your love for the mountain and how has this added to your personal life?
In the last 15 years, I've derived a lot of joy and a lot of satisfaction by doing many of these treks, bringing out these treks, bringing out for the public, for people to come read about them, do the explorations themselves and experience it for themselves. Right now, if at Indiahikes, I think my biggest joy would be looking at the benefits these treks have to offer to various segments of society. Of late, we have had many children trekking. We have had summer camps. We've had children up the 8 years going to treks like the Era Bugyal, going to the summit of Chandrashila. We have had seniors trekking with us, seniors going on Himalayan trek, seniors trekking in the jungles of Chhattisgarh. So all these new segments of people trekking, an entire, what would I say, segment of society taking into trekking and benefiting from it, I think this is what is driving me more and keeping me joyous in working more towards mountains, for the mountains.
Our conversations, you also mentioned that not just that we benefit from going to the mountains, the society in general also benefits. That was a very beautiful take.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always believed that when you trek, you benefit physically, emotionally, and the society also benefits. You get citizens who are more connected to nature, who understand nature, and thereby they naturally want to protect and promote nature. So I think this is one of the biggest benefits for society when people trek. People of all age groups trek.
And how much in the last 15 years have you seen or have you thought that this can be sustainable?
That's always been a question in our minds as to how to make trekking more sustainable. Because we have seen treks go from nowhere to becoming very popular. With popularity brings in all the other problems that naturally come along. When we talk about sustainability, people think it is only about plastics, not littering, leave no trace. No, it goes much beyond that. Sustainability goes much beyond that. It goes to the realms of minimalism and even trekking on trails that are less trodden upon, because you don't want to crowd one place and build up one place, thereby causing its degradation. But spreading yourself, trekking on your own, using lesser resources to trek, DIY trekking, I think all these are ways where you can become more sustainable as a trekker and grow up and upgrade yourself in the trekking ladder. Upgrading doesn't mean just doing higher and higher altitude treks, but becoming a more discerning trekker and continuing to trek all your life.
Sandhya ma'am, thank you so much for coming here. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I'm pretty sure there are a lot of viewers, a lot of listeners out there who've been pondering, should I or should I not? I think there's a lot that you have learned today, and I'm hoping that we hear more hiking and trekking stories from all of you. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, Mana, and thank you, Decathlon.
You must be thinking, why podcasts and why mountain days? Because mountains are something that you should not be deprived of. And in each episode, we're going to bring in somebody who has lived through experiences, has a lot to share, and is definitely going to inspire you. So stay tuned for the entire series.